Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
I think it might be psychological that just right before the show starts, I start wildly coughing. I was not coughing before. All of a sudden, I hear the show open, and I'm like, well, here I am for whatever it's worth. Oh, boy. So, I watched much of the debate last night. I'm good for maybe an hour and a little bit, and then I can't take it anymore. I found it unsettling. My takeaways are Bloomberg's finished, Biden's finished, Sanders is unstoppable. That's what it looks like to me. He has this, and don't take offense, this Trump-like quality to not to give when everybody is jumping all over him. He just keeps going on. He's absolutely sure of himself, and there's no ever any equivocation. There are things that he's not yet answering very well, but that doesn't seem to bother him either. His gun record is awful, and he has never come up with an adequate explanation other than he was pandering to the voters of his home state. I don't know what else unless he really loves guns, I don't know. The other thing is his inability to explain how he pays for his Medicare for All plan and other social programs. He doesn't even seem particularly interested in figuring it out. So, I don't know. My sense is this. If it feels like we're watching something we've seen before, we are. And I hate to say it, it was 4 years ago, almost to the day, when we were watching a whole bunch of Republicans. This is what happens when a party, does not have the incumbency. So the Republicans 4 years ago were coming in after having been out of the White House for 8 years, in which Barack Obama was resident there. And there was no obvious heir apparent. And so there was this, you'll recall, the stage filled with possible Republican nominees. And Donald Trump was on the stage. Nobody thought for a minute that he would get it. But like Trump, like Sanders, he just kept saying his thing and attracting more and more people and attention. And while he never had a majority of Republicans behind him, he had maybe 19% at this point, or even 14%. But the others, that huge panoply of would-be presidential candidates, were dividing up the rest. And that's exactly what's happening now to the party that is out of power, the Democratic Party, with no obvious heir apparent, and all those people on the stage, although it's been whittled down substantially, and they're dividing up the anti-Sanders vote. Sanders at this point, what does he have of the? He even at 30%? I don't know. That means there's 70% of Democrats would prefer somebody else. And yet the way this thing works, unless literally, I think, every single one of them but one or two drop out, that ain't going to happen. And the thing is, then you realize, looking at any of those supremely strong egos on the stage, none of them will. And so they'll repeat what happened 4 years ago to the Republicans, that the candidate with the most vociferous, unyielding kind of base that will stay with him through hell and high water and won't necessarily be excited enough to vote for any of the others. I don't know. I mean, I watched last night and just felt sicker and sicker and sicker, because I do not think personally that Bernie Sanders, I just don't want to continue the chaos. Sorry guys, I don't like swinging this way so that I'm seeing, neo-Nazis in the street, and then swinging back this way as the reaction. The reaction to this black president was to swing this way, right? And get a bunch of, white nationalists and general racial hatred upticking. There is this reactive force in American politics, I suppose in all politics. And instead of heading back to a place where the majority of people can feel like their legs can get under them again, we swing off into another unknown, which will create a different kind of chaos. And personally, at this point, sorry, I got one vote, I don't want it. I'm exhausted. I don't think ultimately it serves us well. We have a system of government that relies on compromise and slow moving forward. It's a system not designed to swing. Things are out of control. And it's just astonishing to watch the Democrats do exactly what the Republicans did 4 years ago. It's just mind-blowing. And that's how I see it. It doesn't mean that's the correct perception of it. It's my perception. I am loath to think that what I'm seeing is, none of us know anymore what's happening, because we have reached this point in our history of an extraordinarily chaotic, unstable moment. And so I don't know. All I know is that what I'm seeing, I've seen before 4 years ago. And it begot Donald Trump's presidency, which has created this sense of incredible crisis in a good half of the American population, and people panicking. I don't know. I'm of no use to any of you in terms of steering you where we should go, and by the time you or I have a say in it, it'll be over. I don't know. So I'm trying to think of any specific other things from the, Klobuchar needs to go. I just don't know. Biden looks so old to me last night, and people were saying, he had a better debate than he's had in a while, and he looked really good, and I thought he looked like hell. He looked old. Bernie Bernie looks like that grumpy old, he has the worst posture of anybody. His head sticking forward, his shoulders up here, and he's always like jabbing at you. It's not a pleasant thing to be on the receiving end of that, just as even a casual person sitting on my couch at home. I don't look forward to 4 years of that either, frankly. I don't know. So you're looking at an unhappy American at the moment. But I'll tell you what, they got to stop savaging each other like they're doing, because all of these things, there were moments where I would just see, oh man, Trump's lifting that right out. It's already being put into an ad, and it's Democrats on Democrats. And it is what happened, in our effort to beat Trump with Hillary. We used all the things that were being said of Trump by other Republicans who now are busily kissing his ass and trying to stay on his good side, because he terrifies them. He terrifies everybody for one reason or the other. Speaking of terror, you never like the head of the national organization that guards against respiratory disease to say something like, "This could be bad." It's not conducive to, putting a bounce in your step afterwards. "This could be bad," said Nancy Messonnier. Who knows how she pronounces it? Anyway, she's the director of the National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Disease. She said that all cities should now be planning for what's called social distancing measures. It's been nice knowing you all, but we're all going to head into our bunkers in the near future. She says cities and public schools should be thinking about dividing classes into smaller groups of students, or closing down schools altogether and having a backup plan of online learning. Meetings, conferences, business as usual probably will need to be canceled. All businesses who have the ability to have their employees work at home should be making plans now and to have that happen. All of that. And to that, of course, the president of the country says this: the coronavirus, yeah, it's very well under control in our country. That's what I give up. Fine. Whatever you say, Donald. So there's all that. We can't catch a break. Oh, I've got a nice story to share. Before we get into any more, horror. This story, you'd grab onto stuff that's like, makes you feel like, right, I remember. People are good. People can be so wonderful and so nice, and this is what I remember. This comes out of Washington State, and it involves an 88-year-old pretty spry guy who was out mowing his lawn, and he fell, and he broke his hip. He could not move, and he was in a part of his lawn where it wasn't obvious that to anyone walking by that there was some guy in need of help lying there. So it was a bad situation, and he lay there for 4 hours in pain, calling out every once in a while. So 3 middle school boys are walking by his house, and they hear, thank God for those young ears, they hear him calling for help. And they ran to look at what it was, and they found him. And then those boys flagged down a car. They did not have cell phones of their own. And they said, you have to call 911. There's an old man lying there. And an ambulance was called. The ambulance crew came. They took him away, where he then, of course, was hospitalized. And then the EMTs were called off to other calls. And when there was a lull, one of the EMTs said to the other EMTs, hey, guys, you know that old guy, he had a lot more of that lawn to do. How's about we go back and finish it up for him? I mean, unless we get another call, how about we go back and do that? And they did. And they went back to his house. They called first. They called their supervisor and said, this is what we want to do. Is that okay? And he said, yeah, go for it. I mean, if you need. So they went, and it took them an hour. 3 guys. They cleaned it all up. Looked really good. The guy who had the broken hip, his grandson said that, his grandfather, that the lawn was his pride and joy, and he really tended it since his wife died 5 years ago. But, something like that. And then it turns out, one of the EMTs, when he was questioned, he said, yeah, well, we've done things like that before. We look at it like a family community. I mean, I've seen people with broken porches and replaced a couple of boards. If we see someone in need, we can go help and maybe buy them some groceries, and then the department will refund us our money. That is what our picture is of who we are, what we want to be. And you know what? I don't know. Are these EMTs Trump voters? Is the guy in the kids live in houses? Are all these wonderful people in this story, what party do they belong to? That's where we are now. Interestingly, the 3 little kids, they never told their parents because they were not supposed to be where they were. So they never told their parents, hey, we helped save a guy today. They did not, because they had been told to go straight to the Boys and Girls Club after school. And instead, they were going over to one of the third one's house. And so they were a little nervous. Here's one of the kids. Me and Colby, I mean, we were supposed to be going to the Boys and Girls Clubs, but we thought we would be a little sneaky and walk Adam home first. And this kid said when he heard this guy screaming, help me, he said, at first I hesitated, but then I decided I'm not going to run away. I'm going to help this old guy. And then they did what they were supposed to do, but they didn't go home and tell their parents. Their parents know now. So anyway, that story warmed my heart, my poor aching heart. And we know that America is still out there, but it's not, it gets no attention. We're set against each other by virtue of our media and and the way we see the world, I guess. I don't know. Hey, I got to tell you, yesterday I told you the New York Times had this big 2-page spread about a photography exhibit over here at the August Wilson Center, and I thought, you get proud. All right, yeah. And then today in the Wall Street Journal, there's this big review of a Pittsburgh opera production, which is not their main production. They do it in a like warehousey area of the Strip District, seats no more than 200 people, and they talk about this in the Wall Street Journal. It sounds fascinating because it's about it's an opera that explores the anger of the white working class. And to do it in this elitist form of culture, opera. So it's about, it's weird. I mean, the lyrics, I mean, obviously it's in English, so the lyrics say things like, it's set in a small, just totally down and out town in Ohio. And the lyrics say things like, it's now only home to taverns and dollar stores, raccoons and scenic meth labs. The lead guy is a conspiracy theorist who's trying to get some FBI agent to kill him. Suicide by cop. I don't know. Weird. Did you know about that? Whatever. It's still showing if you want to see it. They say it's just 90 minutes long. Here's something that I've been wanting to, well, you know what? I'm going to save this till tomorrow, I think. I'm going to save this till tomorrow because we've got Ryan Dito coming in a little bit. I want to note that while our president was, making nice to Modi in India, there were people being killed, in the city, in Delhi. There were, and it's a result of Modi's xenophobic and bigoted politics, his nationalism, and it's Hindus, the majority religion in India, which is supposedly a secular state. It's Hindus armed with metal rods and clubs, beating the hell and killing Hindus. I mean, Muslims, who comprise, I guess, about, 18%? Is that what it is? Or not even 18% of the population? My sense of Hindus, they won't even touch a cow. A cow, you can't eat beef because you wouldn't want to hurt a cow. I think of Hinduism as like this because I think of Gandhi. So I think of some very gentle, and then to see, no, it's like any other religion. It's like any other religion. It can be turned so that good Hindus feel that killing Muslims is a good idea. I just wanted to point out that, of course, our president, is making nice while this is happening a few blocks away. Not a few blocks. Delhi's a rather large city. It's like 30-minute ride away through extremely crowded streets. Mike sent me an interesting article. I just want to share it with you because it's about the fact that young people don't go out much. They stay in their houses. They're not helping the economy. They don't eat out. They don't do stuff. They just hang out, play video games. Who the hell knows what they're doing? Anyway. And the article is about how so many millennials live alone. And according to the article, the phrase they use is they decorate their homes with solitude. They don't entertain. They don't host guests. But the article says, hey, listen, it's not because millennials are all of a sudden people who are totally narcissistic and don't want to enjoy other people's company. No, it's because they're broke. They've got no money. And they're exhausted because they work their tails off and still don't have any money. I mean, I can see this with my own son, who is a millennial. And here is one woman, millennial, quoted in the article. I work at a job that requires all day chatter and coming home to my solitude is necessary. She works in a place that's an open office plan, like right behind me here. And that means there's never any quiet and there's never any privacy. And so one can see where you would want to go home and be in your own space. And others go home and work on a side job that they have. The article says, look, we're not just turning away from entertaining because we love watching The Bachelor alone. We're doing it because we're fried from work, and all our close friends live in other cities anyway. We're not eating off the same coffee table we freelance from because we're disrupting the furniture industry. We're doing it because we can't afford a dining room table, and in fact, we don't even have room. We don't have a dining room in the place we call home. We're not just staying at our place because we prefer to socialize with group chats and Instagram. We're staying in because the average person spends $81 on a night out, and we don't have it. You think about that, and these millennials want Bernie Sanders because his very easily digestible message speaks to the reality of their lives. They're working their tails off and getting nowhere. And yet they hear, the economy is great. Yeah. So there's the reality. And I totally understand their affinity for him, and also because they don't have the broader view that older people have of how politics can work and the dangers of doing this or doing that. They're young. And they don't mind the chaos. They see it as a revolution. And that's exciting. Change. I see something really scary. But that's from an old person. Okay? Saw somewhere on Twitter, somebody said, I just found out that SJW means social justice warrior. And that's funny because I thought it meant single Jewish woman. Well, I knew it did mean single Jewish woman in ads, but it means social justice warrior now. There's a lot of these things that, like ADA, what does that mean to you? ADA, what do you think? ADA, what are those?
American with Disabilities Act.
Americans with Disability Act. Yeah. How about American Dental Association?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
That's right. How about, wait a minute.
Acronyms. Stupid.
Yeah, wait, I can come up with another ADA one. Wasn't there something called Americans for Democratic Action or something? There was something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Whatever.
Okay.
So, I
yeah. Wait, were you talking about social justice warriors before?
No,
SJWs?
SJWs, right. Because I used to think SJW, at least in my world,
Yeah.
way back in the day, SJW was what you would do on a dating site to identify yourself as a single Jewish woman.
That's amazing. I actually let's set that in stone.
Right.
I want that to be set in stone because honestly, social justice warrior is a term made up by the right to insult people who advocate for intersectionality.
Okay.
So yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of like what's happened with like Obamacare and these other things. It's like where the right made up the term and then eventually we all just adapted.
They're very good at it.
Yeah, sanctuary cities is another one too.
They're
right?
very good at it.
Yeah. And so I much rather would look at that and go, ooh, single Jewish woman. Yes, please.
It's great stuff. Great stuff. So I think I want to talk to you.
Okay.
Oh, first of all, this came in last week. And because of this stupid thing, I couldn't remember never mind. I couldn't forward it to you.
Okay.
This is an apology from Roger,
Oh.
who wrote in while you were on,
Okay.
and then the next day felt he had to apologize to you.
Okay.
So
That's nice.
you might take the apology and still end up getting angry, but
Okay.
let me.
I get angry at a lot of things.
Can I read it?
Please, please.
Right. Lynn, please share this with last Wednesday's guest, Ryan Dito.
That's me.
I apologize for the tone of my email last week, and then he reminds us what it is.
Oh, yes, I remember this one.
Tell your young buck guest that old fucks will determine the future because they vote. Young people who do care are generally in blue states, not in middle America. Okay, that was.
Yeah.
So he felt bad.
It's a little brash.
So that's okay.
Yeah.
So he then says,
I get his point, though.
it's understandable that Ryan's comeback was that his generation is hated. But his generation is not alone. Baby boomers like me went through the same thing, that's true. From the greatest and silent generations, many millennials will be dismissive of subsequent generations too.
Right.
It's natural law.
No.
While I am hopeful that younger people will save us from the mess created by all the previous generations, even the greatest one, who brought us the atomic bomb, overpopulation, pollution, segregation.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
He then says, but don't underestimate how the socialist label will impact Bernie's electability, especially with white boomers in swing states. While we need young people's vote to help save our democracy, boomers will play the biggest part in determining the outcome. It has been drummed into boomers' heads, thanks to the Cold War and Russia, the Soviet Union, and the likes of Reagan, that socialism is equivalent to communism, which is evil. Reality be damned. I want health care for all and to end student debt and save what's left of our environment, but that doesn't resonate with those who need to get President Capone out. I apologize for making you feel hated. We are more alike than different. Hell, I want traffic to go away as I ride my bike all over Pittsburgh, too. While I hold these ideals, I must be pragmatic. I don't think Bernie can pull this surprise upset like Trump did in 2016. We can't afford another 4 years of Voldemort.
He who must not be named.
Yes. And then he says, P.S., while 33 years is not a kid, in 25 years, you'll realize how young you were. Yeah,
I appreciate it. That's a very
Isn't that a
thorough.
nice
That's a
letter?
very nice letter. It's a very nice letter. Thank you, Roger. I appreciate that. One thing that I will say that, and this is like a broader thing, is that this is what I hear all the time. Is that, especially from the older generation, is this idea that like, well, we were taught that socialism is evil, and so we don't think that other people will get that like it's more complex, or that these things aren't necessarily communism or these other dictatorships or these other things like that. But what I don't get is, why do we then, and this is also young people too, go around and just tell everybody that? We're just reinforcing the negative stereotype that was given to us by the GOP. Why do that?
Well,
Why
it wasn't
not
just the
say,
GOP.
Right.
It was America.
Sure.
I mean, it was
Chris Matthews. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
But like, so this is what I don't get, is that it's very pessimistic, and it's very backwards thinking to be, well, other people think this way, so we can't do anything about it. Bullshit. Yes, we can.
Yes, but if you want, so I don't understand so if we want to change their minds, you do have to say, hey, we have to bring it up.
We have to bring it up, and we have to say,
well,
well, other swing voters might not like this. Well, why not go talk to them? Or anybody who you think won't do it, or says to you, oh, I'm afraid of socialism, sit down and explain it to them.
Like, the Medicare that you like, that's socialism.
The state government.
That is it.
The state government of Pennsylvania recently, and it still hasn't been vetoed yet, passed a bill that would give billions of dollars to the oil and gas companies to create cracker plants in Pennsylvania. Every time they create a cracker plant, it would give them billions of our tax subsidies, basically, and incentives. State government passed that through the Republican-controlled legislature, and many Democrats also passed that bill. That is, under this definition, socialism, and yet nobody's throwing their arms up. But when Bernie says, I want to give people free college, they go, ooh, the socialist label. So this is the kind of thing
it's socialism when it benefits the regular people.
Everybody, universality, right?
It's
everyone.
Capitalism and
when
good government.
Benefits
When it benefits
Dutch oil giant,
Shell,
right,
who doesn't need help.
One of the richest companies in the world.
Yeah.
And so
it's why all these huge companies don't pay taxes. I mean,
right.
Our government works to their advantage at to our disadvantage, and
so I will say that
we're wanting to turn that around.
Totally.
I think the capitalists will do okay.
We're going to be fine.
Don't lose sleep about them.
They do pretty well in Europe.
Yeah, maybe not getting a tax kind of abatement. I think they'll still, and you think they won't then build anything?
Right.
Bullshit.
Right. And so I want to acknowledge and agree with Roger's point and other maybe more moderate voters in Pittsburgh's point that it is a scary word and there is fear that it can persuade voters. But I would say if you truly hate Voldemort, Capone, Trump, go around and talk to everybody who has that fear and try to explain them that honestly Bernie is not, or Warren is not proposing like Fidel Castro's regime, or is not proposing Stalin or Mao's kind of government. Like, just be honest about it.
Yeah, well, but I do think some people are at a loss and they don't know how to make that argument. We'll hope Bernie makes it better.
I agree.
And some of the other surrogates would make it better.
But I would say we're only hurting ourselves as liberals and as Democrats to just go around and be like, oh yeah, it's a problem. No. Why do we want to reinforce an attack that it has been mostly from the Republicans, but also from maybe some older moderate Democrats? Why do we want to reinforce that attack? And so let's not do that. That's like my suggestion. But anyway, I really appreciate that apology, Roger. Thank you. I really do. That's great. I do.
Nice?
It's really nice.
I couldn't figure out how to forward it to you.
Oh, that's okay.
Because this won't store your email.
Oh,
you know
it
what I
won't.
mean? If I were to do, like Ardito or Ardito, shouldn't it come up? It doesn't.
No, that's weird.
So I don't even have Amy's, and I forget hers because it's ridiculous.
That's weird. Yeah. Because you're still on this one. You don't have it on Outlook or anything. Oh, because you're on Apple. Anyway.
Apparently, a lot of wrong choices have been made by me. I don't know. So, okay.
Great.
Where did I see you had a long sit down with Demare?
Yeah, it's on our cover. Can I show it real quick?
Yeah, here.
There's our mayor, Pittsburgh Mayor Bill Peduto. He's my long interview with him.
It looks like you think he's in a strange, on the fence kind of position.
And he is. He really is.
He really is.
In terms of,
did he make you feel sorry for him?
he actually was very thorough. He was very thing, and it was really nice to talk with him about really what we're talking about here, like these like big sweeping changes versus maybe more moderate changes, and specifically to the Pittsburgh region and its ties to the fracking industry. So yeah, he is in the middle, right? Because we have a rift growing. There's the Fitzgerald side in our region that is pro-fracking.
That's our county executive,
right?
Who,
and I should say this is only between the Democrats. The Republicans are totally on the other side. They are so pro-fracking that they were like, no tax, no regulation, no anything. So, but at the same time,
but a lot of Democrats are also pro-fracking because of what they see as the potential for, job creation,
jobs, economic things. The job thing is a little suspect.
Now, and Peduto tends to side with environmentalists,
right?
But he's also a pragmatic politician who knows the political landscape. Right?
Yes, he definitely knows the political landscape.
He's
been here for a long time. He understands, and it really shocked a lot of people when he came out and sided more with the environmentalists or more with the progressive wing of the Democratic Party.
Which would seem to be a very not smart move if you're an elected official where all this stuff is going on.
Well, especially because the power that the trade unions have in our state.
That's right. Politically, that was a very gutsy move.
Well, especially if he ever had any bigger ambitions for the region. I think he's pretty safe in the city, but yes, it definitely riled a lot of democratically aligned groups. Fitzgerald came out and was pissed, and the labor union council was mad, which is made up of a lot of unions, but a lot of trades union that have a lot of workers in the fracking and the petrochemical and construction industry, and so it's been unclear where he kind of goes from here. Does he join the Warren, Sanders, AOC, Sarah Namarato, Summer Lee side of the Green New Deal, or does he hark back and go with the Fitzgerald,
and he doesn't know
Biden, Connor Lamb side?
And he's paralyzed.
He is, really.
Poor guy.
That's why he's on a donkey that can't go anywhere.
He's paralyzed.
Yeah, and so and I thought he brought up some really good points, actually, in why he hasn't made that decision, and talking about how do we bring the environmentalists who have a lot of really good points about the dangers of fracking, about the climate change aspects, about the job suspect numbers. They have a lot of good points, together with the union groups that support those jobs and that economic growth model tied to their unions. How do we bring those two together for a shared common goal? And that's what he wants to do, and that's why he hasn't endorsed the Green New Deal, because it didn't involve, and it hasn't yet involved, the trades unions, the AFL-CIO, and these other really big fossil fuel trades union related.
This is what happens.
It does have union support, but not from them.
This is what happens when you're a Democrat. The big tent party.
Yes.
So, in our big tent, we have strong environmentalists.
Right.
We have trade unions,
right,
although technically most of their people have
Trump.
left the tent.
And this is what I'm sorry.
Okay,
keep going.
No.
This is what one of the biggest issues is, I think, and what we really need to talk about.
Is maybe we don't kowtow to the trade unions
but we
anymore?
need to talk about it. We need to talk about how to do it, because let's be perfectly honest, the trades union members, especially the membership, not necessarily the leadership, right? The members of the steel workers, people who work in steel, the people who work in construction, the people who work in building fracking rigs.
Overwhelmingly Trump.
They backed Trump. They backed Trump. They did not back Clinton, who is a pro-fracking candidate. She was pro-fracking. That's what everybody forgets. And so,
they don't back Democrats.
That's right. And
Yeah,
so
okay.
how
So
do we bring them into our tent?
Well,
if they're
they
not
used
willing
to be
to
there.
bring us.
They used to be there,
Yes.
and we're fearful of turning on what's left of them.
Right.
Also because they were always like part and parcel of the Democratic Party machinery of vote knockers and
especially
the
in
door
Pittsburgh,
knockers,
right?
and
Especially in
well,
Pittsburgh,
in any
right.
industrial
Yes.
area. I mean,
Yes.
yes.
But what's even crazier is that, as a lot of my other reporting from last week showed, is that even of those door knockers, Democrats, blah blah blah, they're Trump supporters.
Okay, I wanted to ask you more about that.
So we
too.
have to really talk about the Democratic Party in our region.
I wanted to ask you more.
Yes, please.
Because that was so unbelievable.
Right.
Where the county Democratic committee endorsed a Trump.
You can't even finish your sentence.
I mean, a freaking Trump supporter, a bigot, but just the worst. I mean,
Wow.
this woman
Values just totally antithetical.
totally antithetical to
Right.
everything any Democrat would.
Honestly,
and
even a little antithetical to like moderate Republicans.
Well, I mean, they overwhelmingly supported her.
Yep.
And then they held it when there was a,
Big blow up.
they hold a press conference.
Oh, so good.
And
Lynn.
the head of the
Chair of the Democratic Committee in Allegheny County.
the chair,
Yes. Which is like the head. The head.
the head of it, doubled down.
No, yeah. She was.
These Trump voters are wonderful people, and of course Democrats should support them. What did she say?
Well, okay,
I mean,
so
it was just
so
unbelievable.
she supported the endorsement process, because how the endorsement process in Allegheny County Democratic Committee works is that committee members who are elected or appointed into this committee, those who live in each district cast the votes for the endorsement. So she defended that as a democratic process.
Okay, as a process,
Right.
as a democratic process.
Right. But when I asked her about other committee members that have publicly on their Facebook pages and other aspects
Social media posts.
Right, exactly. Show support for Donald Trump, saying "Go Trump, Trump Train 2020," aka I'm going to vote for Trump in 2020.
Wearing a MAGA hat.
Wearing MAGA hats, wearing Trump hats.
Yeah.
Like all these things. She goes, "Oh, no, that's not, no. They're not really Trump supporters. That's just a joke." Give me a fucking break.
No, it's not a joke.
It's not a
Obviously,
joke.
it's not a joke.
Obviously, why would you put that as a joke?
And
if,
it's- and let
if
me
you
tell
did,
you,
you would make it clear it's a joke.
It's a joke that you would say it's a joke. Okay, that's a joke.
Right. And so, so she totally downplayed that. I've discovered, well, I've been sent a lot more, because there's a lot more committee members that are like, oh, there's more, by the way. Even more Trump supporters within the Democratic Committee. I think I've revealed like 5 or 6
Okay.
now.
These are
and then there's
people
still
with
thousands of people who are on this committee. So it's still a very small minority, but still.
But still, we know, first of all, that Democrats, in terms of registration, how do people identify at the polls? Democrats overwhelmingly here in Western
Yes.
PA.
And PA as a whole, I think they're still over 1 million.
But
They're
the
close to it.
reality is
Right.
they're just too lazy or stupid to change their identification.
Or they want
They-
to maintain it so that a lot of places, even like South Fayette or
Where they can vote in
Nesson,
primaries
where
and
in terms of
Right.
municipal races, everyone still
You
runs
have
as
to be a
Democrats.
Democrat.
So you have to vote in the Democratic
But
primary.
these are not Democrats. And
No.
and
They're dinos.
here in this area, it's just astonishing.
Some of these people live within the city. This is the crazier thing.
Well, what? Sure.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is that it's I think as liberals and
Well, what should the party do? Purge them?
well, they're supposed to. That's actually the rules. That's
What
actually
is
the
it- what
rules.
does the rule say? If
You are
you-
not allowed to show public support for an opposing party. It's against the rules. This happened when I wrote about.
So
do you remember about the middleman thing? So there were a lot of committee members, Democratic committee members, who after Zapala won the nomination, the Democratic nomination in the primary, and then he got a general election challenger from Lisa Middleman, who was who was a Democrat, but then filed as an independent, is really progressive. Saw her yesterday actually, and so a lot of people in the Democratic Party were like, we think this should be our DA. because she has more of the values that align with Democratic
Right,
Party
right.
than Zappala did, who was running as a conservative, honestly. And so
Yes.
when that happened, the Democratic chair sent an email out actually to every Democratic committee member reminding them that they are not allowed to publicly support an independent or Republican in the thing. And yet
they turn around and
go, oh
unbelievable.
no, it's just a joke that they're, wearing a Trump hat or anything like that. This is the leadership of this party. This is this region. Let's just be perfectly honest that we allow conservatives within our ranks more than we allow progressives.
Okay.
That's just how it is.
So to get these people out will take other people's being willing to stand up, go in.
It's a complaint process, basically. But
You got to take over. You got to have people willing to become these these council people.
Right.
And how many people really want to?
But here's the thing. Here's the thing: is that I've heard from people, especially after Trump won, and especially in 2018, when there was this big push to get Democrats elected, like Connor Lamb. I heard from a lot of grassroots people who had never been involved in politics, and they wanted to join the committee, but they were kind of spurred, and they actually didn't. They ended up not joining because. Oh, I wonder why. Because there's Trump supporters in the committee. Maybe because it's a very insular, it's a very xenophobic group that is like, well, if you're not part of our club, we don't really want you here.
So it's really hard to, if enough people gather and go in,
right,
and make a pact,
right,
we're taking this thing over.
And
we're
that's
just going
right.
in. You got it, but that's
Right.
the kind of.
And it's not till 2020 that people are even allowed to do that.
Undramatic, sort of dull.
Power building. But that's what has to
That
happen.
Democrats don't do.
Right.
That Republicans do.
Because they're united. But we're divided because we have a Big Ten. And I think a Big Ten is good, but we have to, in my personal opinion, especially in this region, you have to purge some of the people out. They have to be out.
I think they do too.
You cannot account for Trump supporters. You cannot account for very conservative people in your party. There's a difference between Connor Lamb and someone who's wearing a Trump hat. Let's be perfectly honest. Right.
Connor Lamb is a Democrat.
He's a Democrat. He supports the fracking industry, but that doesn't
That's
mean
okay.
that
That's
doesn't
okay.
mean,
He's a Democrat.
Yeah, he's still a Democrat. If he ever wanted to have an interview with me, I'd love to have one about his support for the fracking industry. But at the same time, that's one issue. But everything else, he's pretty aligned on, right? Gay rights, no money in politics, all these other things. And so this is where is the spectrum? How big is this tent? How can
It's too big. It's increasingly too big to be a party.
To function, right?
Yeah.
It's going to fall apart.
Yeah, the Republicans are shrinking themselves into this crazed
right,
cult.
which is bad. And
which
they
is
shouldn't
bad.
be that
and
small.
that party is essentially not, it doesn't exist anymore. It's the Trump party.
For sure.
And the Democratic Party is in grave danger of disappearing by trying to take in so many disparate
forces,
voices,
right.
and
Yes.
forces.
Yeah. They got to look to the future, though, in my opinion, right? You got to look to the future, and this is where me, young buck, 33-year-old, and younger, those Gen Zers, I'm a huge fan. We have to look to where that is, and I do believe that there is a path, but right now it is uncomfortable to watch. You know?
Well, speaking to that, Beth writes about the debate. Did you watch?
I watched a little bit of the debate.
Okay,
it was a fucking disaster.
Thank you. I thought so too. Everybody thought so. Yeah.
I had to turn it off. because I was
it's upsetting.
Yeah, it was. I'm
was
I'm gonna
upsetting.
go cook dinner now because it's just too much.
It was really upsetting.
Yeah.
However, one other big story that you were always dismissive of. Mm-hmm. The coronavirus.
Oh, it's coming.
It is. No, you got it. Did you see this? Where they're actually saying they're saying that Peduto right now and every other mayor.
Does he have it? I just interviewed with him.
No. He's got to start making plans about how are people going to? Are they going to close the schools?
We should definitely start. We should definitely start making plans. Plans are good. I agree. My
All right,
girlfriend
I
has
just-
kind of settled me down because even I was like for a second like, oh no, what's going to happen? But she's like, it's probably just going to be like the flu now. You know, it's just
Well,
going to
it
be a
depends
thing
on who
where
you
we're
are.
just
No,
gonna-
I'll tell
right.
you, you're okay.
Yeah.
Anyone over 65, you're screwed. And if you have asthma, that's me too. So if this thing comes to town, I'm holing up in my house.
Okay.
Don't you think that's a good idea?
Hey, you can vote by mail now. I'll bring you a ballot.
Okay.
Okay.
Beth writes about the, upsetting debate last
the debate.
night.
Yes.
I mean, we might be upset for different reasons. I
Yeah.
don't know, but it was savage.
Well, I'm a journalist, and I'm upset when journalists do a bad job.
Well,
so.
the journalists were it was a free for all.
Right.
It was just ridiculous. Okay, this is Beth. In watching the early debates, I felt good that we had so many good and qualified candidates. In watching last night's debate, I felt concern. Exactly.
Okay.
There was too much attacking each other. All I could think is these clips will be used. That's what I just said for
Right.
Trump ads down the road.
Yeah.
It continues to show the ineptitude of this DNC chair, Tom Perez.
Totally. 100%.
What a disaster.
It's a disaster.
By not reining in these candidates and getting them focused on message, no matter what, go after Trump. Stop going after each other.
I 100% agree with Beth on all of this.
But you've got those candidates want the nomination.
So they have to go after each other a little bit.
So that right now, because Bernie's looking like he's something they can't stop.
Right.
They had to attack
Right.
last night.
And they
On
did.
the other hand, it's quite clear, and I said this earlier in the show, that most of those people on that stage have got to get together, figure out, if you think Bernie is the guy, then one of us should take him on.
Oh yeah,
They need to
It's all
drop.
Bloomberg. It's all Bloomberg's fault, really.
Yeah,
From
well, he
joining the
needs to-
race.
yeah, screw him. He needs to
He's
go
gotta
away.
go. He's gotta
He's
go.
got to go.
I
And-
loved how Elizabeth Warren brought up the $12 million he gave to Pat Toomey to help him get reelected in 2016. That was great.
Okay, he needs to go. Both billionaires on both sides.
Oh yeah,
Steyer,
Steyer's got to go.
that. But then we have a problem with Buttigieg and Klobuchar and Biden.
Right.
One of them has to go, or two of them have
Yeah.
to go, and frankly, Elizabeth Warren needs to go. Let's see.
So
where
basically,
her,
one-on-one.
Well,
I mean,
she
a lot of
and
this is going to
Bernie,
change
those,
after.
those are the,
right.
you know.
A lot of this is
I-
going to change on Super Tuesday, though, right? Because there's going to be a
Well,
more
we'll s-
clear. But I mean, it might be too late by then because Bernie might win enough to basically have him cinch
Look.
up the nomination, or at least, pretty much
This
kind
is
of like what
how
happened
Trump.
with Trump.
This is how
won.
Trump won.
Right.
And that's worrisome, frankly,
But that's
because
also-
it means whatever.
No, but it's also indicative of the problems of the DNC and really Democratic Party in general is that they didn't see this movement that Bernie was building. You know,
Yeah.
he was building this movement among young people, among Latinos. I mean, he crushed with Latinos, you know, like we'll see how he does with black voters in South Carolina. Like he was building this movement, focused on movement building for his message. And all the while, a lot of, moderate Democrats who probably are more the majority within the Democratic Party in America right now, they were all just squabbling amongst themselves, not thinking about how to build their movement, you know?
Yeah,
And so
he's built
you have to give credit to Bernie. It's smart.
I agree. You do.
Trump did the same thing. He was focused. Honestly, Trump was focused on building a movement as well. He did it through cable news. He did it through rallies. He did it through things that he knows how to understand. He knows how to manipulate the media really well.
He did it by putting on a show.
But I mean, he even did it years before.
Well-
He did it when he went on Fox News and talked about the Obama bullcrap, birther, thing. He built a movement, and that's clearly how you win presidential candidacies now, is that you build a movement,
Okay. Well, I've got lots of other reasons why I think I know he's building.
Yeah.
On the other hand, some of what he did this weekend seriously could turn off a major constituency in that Democratic tent, actually, and cost us Florida. And that
We already
is-
lost Florida.
No.
Yeah, we lost it last time.
It's
By a lot.
always close as can be. Florida
I'm more
is a-
skeptical about Florida because of what happened in 2018 when both the Democratic governor and both the Democratic governor and Democratic senator, an incumbent, lost. I think Florida is just like a bunch of old people and they love Trump,
No, it's
It's
a lot
tough.
more complicated. Florida is.
We'll see.
Whatever.
We'll see.
Okay. All right. Now we're out of time too. Okay. So pick up City Paper and
Yeah.
read this poor. It's like sort of Mayor Bill Peduto of Pittsburgh as Hamlet.
Oh, Hamlet, that would have been pretty good too. Actually.
Yeah,
Done-
yeah,
done it for the
I just
cover.
sort of like, oh God, yeah, he's
To green or not to green?
he's got a little conundrum. Thank you, Ryan Dito,
Thank you.
and I'll see you. I'm not here next week.
Okay.
Okay.
Not next week. I won't be here. I mean, yeah, maybe I'll just come on anyway. Just bullshit,
Well, I ain't here. Feel free. I don't care. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.